One swimmer's secret to setting world records. We're going to dive into the details in this edition of CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus. Welcome to the show. We begin in South Bend, where President Obama gave the commencement address at Notre Dame's graduation ceremony yesterday. Now, as we reported last week, this has raised some controversy. You see, Notre Dame is a Catholic university, and some people are upset that the school invited President Obama to speak and gave him an honorary degree because of the president's pro-choice position on abortion. That position goes against traditional Catholic teachings. Police officials say 27 people were arrested during protests before yesterday's ceremony. Some graduates chose to boycott the event to demonstrate their anger over the situation. Others expressed disapproval by painting protest symbols on their graduation caps. A few hecklers even interrupted the beginning of the president's speech, although they were booed by others in the audience. For his part, President Obama acknowledged the controversy, but urged people on both sides of the abortion issue to search for common ground.
When we open up our hearts and our minds to those who may not think precisely like we do or believe precisely what we believe, that's when we discover at least the possibility of common ground.
Is this legit? The U.S. Constitution sets the number of Supreme Court justices. Nope. The Constitution established the Supreme Court, but Congress sets the number of justices.
Right now, that number is 9. 1 Chief Justice, 8 Associate Justices. But one of them, Justice David Souter, is retiring, which means President Obama needs to pick a replacement who will then have to be confirmed by the Senate. Cade Baldwin tells us who's on the final list of candidates and explains why the search process is raising some controversy.
President Obama calls it among his most serious responsibilities.
I will seek somebody with a sharp and independent mind and a record of excellence and integrity.
Sources close to the selection process tell CNN the list of top candidates for Mr. Obama's Supreme Court nominee is down to about half a dozen, a majority of which are women. They include federal appeals court judges Sonia Sotomayor and Diane Wood, Solicitor General Elena Kagan, and at least 2 candidates with political experience, Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano and Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm. On his search, the president says he's looking beyond judicial record.
I view that quality of empathy, of understanding and identifying with people's hopes and struggles as an essential ingredient for arriving at just decisions and outcomes.
That worries many conservatives who translate what Mr. Obama calls empathy to mean judicial activism. Conservative groups are gearing up for a fight.
We want to see that law be equally applied, and the empathy talk really, personal feelings getting in the mix, it's very troublesome.
The president is likely to announce his nominee by month's end, a lifetime appointment viewed as a key element of any presidential legacy.
It's impossible to overstate the importance of a Supreme Court appointment because of the justices' power. They decide things like abortion, affirmative action, gay rights, the meaning of all of the laws involving the detainees at Guantanamo Bay and presidential powers, wiretapping. The list goes on and on and on.
Is this legit? Extra credit. Fidel Castro is the current president of Cuba. Not legit. His brother Raul Castro became president more than a year ago.
With that shift in power, the island nation is undergoing some changes in terms of its relationship with the U.S. Under Fidel Castro's control, which lasted nearly 50 years, Cuba clashed with the U.S., and America established an embargo or restriction on trade with the communist country. But as Shasta Darlington reports, U.S. companies are preparing for the possibility of a change in Cuba.
Fidel Castro's revolution tore down capitalism and all of its symbols, leaving an ad-free oasis in Cuba. Instead of commercials, state-run TV urges Cubans to attend political rallies and fight disease-ridden mosquitoes. This iconic face looms from billboards, peddling revolution instead of retail. And visitors notice.
It's really quiet. It makes your mind very clear.
More than 90% of business is state-owned in Cuba, and the U.S. embargo keeps most American companies out anyway. But that hasn't kept them from preparing, in case one day they can break into this market just 90 miles off U.S. shores. Experts say thousands of American brands are trademarked here for just that reason.
Kraft Foods, Starbucks Coffee, Batman.
Rusty Fords and Chevrolets still ply Havana's highways, but Detroit hasn't unveiled any new models here since 1959.
Some big names like Coca-Cola are still sold in Cuba today, thanks to exceptions in the embargo for food products. Other names like this one you'll only find in antique shops.
Still, pressure for change is growing in Washington. U.S. President Barack Obama has lifted some restrictions on travel to Cuba. Now many lawmakers want trade restrictions eased, and companies are taking note.
Cuba's been forbidden for so long that it hasn't been worthwhile for U.S. companies to pay much attention to it. Now that it looks like policy is changing and may change further, it's certainly, I think, in a U.S. company's interest to go ahead and look towards registering their trademark.
While change may not happen overnight, even companies ousted by Fidel Castro are getting positioned for any opening on Havana's horizon. Shasta Darlington, CNN, Havana.
Our next story today, an athlete who's been making some waves in competitive swimming. This guy holds 3 world records, and this past weekend he went gunning for a 4th at an event in Canada. What's the big deal? He happens to be 100 years old. CBC reporter Marissa Dragani caught up with this swimming centenarian before this weekend's race.
Okay, thank you.
He's not your average senior citizen who swims a few laps to stay in shape. Yaring Timmerman is a world-class athlete. He has won countless titles, hundreds of medals, and shattered world records. You would think that at 100 years old, he'd slow down, but he's hungry for more.
But I got 3 world records there. Yeah, and I still have one to get. And
which one is that?
That's the 100 backstroke.
And that's what you're after now?
That's what I'm after now.
I'm going to time you.
Timmerman is going to go for it at the Canadian National Masters competition in Toronto. He's the only one in his age category, 100 to 104, so he'll be swimming against the clock, trying to beat the last record. Timmerman didn't start competing until he was 80 at the urging of his wife.
Well, it's good to be here, and it's good to see you all.
Here at home, this centenarian has become a local celebrity. He's agile, lucid, strong, no health problems, he says, and everyone wants to know his secret.
I formed an acronym. That acronym is GEDS. GEDS. Genes, exercise, diet, spirit. How are you?
Timmerman says it's quite simple. He says you can't do much about what you inherit, but he believes you can change through diet and exercise and having a good spirit. He lifts weights every day and does calisthenics, something he began doing training in the Air Force back before the Second World War.
So you want to know how you did it for 100 meters?
The current world record is 4 minutes and 42 seconds.
You swam a time of 3:54.
Well, I think I'm going to beat it then.
I think he did. When Mr. Timmerman hit the water this weekend, his 100-meter backstroke clocked in at 3 minutes and just under 52 seconds, 2 seconds faster than the practice time. It's also the exact time he predicted for himself before the race, so he got his 4th world record and our congratulations. Well, before we go today, speaking of unique world records, this actually qualifies as one. The biggest gathering of people doing the dance from Michael Jackson's Thriller video. No, it doesn't look like much of a dance, but we swear like 25 years ago, I'm told, everyone thought these moves were awesome. Anyway, last month, a senior at William & Mary University got 242 people together to break the record, which was one of his lifelong goals. So we're sure that the official announcement from Guinness really gave him a thriller. Well, I hope your day is better than that pun. For CNN Student News, I'm Carl Azus.